Hello, friends, and welcome back to Spike Week. I'm Erik Beimfohr, and today on the show, we're talking training camp news, preseason games, trade demands, tons of injuries, unfortunately, preseason game performance, everything happening in training camp that is relevant to our fantasy football and best ball drafts. What does it mean? How do we approach these different situations? How do we handle the hype? How do we handle a lack of hype? How do we handle a strong preseason performance and everything else? And of course, we'll put it to the test in some best ball drafts to close out the show and give away some free tickets to the Drafters main event. Let's do it. Hello, GM, to everyone. Happy Friday for Best Ball, Viper, Mac, Chris, Tesla, Best Ball on Call, Marie, everybody. Welcome. Happy Friday. I hope you enjoyed the Hall of Fame game. I hope it has been a wonderful week. We finally, as everyone's always concerned, I know about weather, right? Everybody's always concerned about the weather where it is, but I feel particularly positive on this Friday because it's been 1,000 degrees here for seemingly months, and we got some nice 70-degree weather here. It's going to be an incredible weekend, a great weekend to get outside, but touch grass, but also draft best ball teams. Hopefully, some of you guys will get some free tickets into. Well, I know some of you guys will get some free tickets into some best ball teams. The submission is officially over for this week. Free ticket giveaway. If you've not joined us here before on Fridays, at least for the last few weeks, shout out to our good friends over at drafters.com. They have their best ball, the main event, which is a $500,000 first place prize. Huge cumulative scoring best ball tournament. We love our good friends over at Drafters, but they've graced me with the ability to give away 3 free tickets every single Friday on this show. All you have to do is comment on one of our videos from that week. I grab your name, toss it onto a wheel. At the end of Friday's show, we'll give away those tickets. You do not have to be here to win the free ticket on Friday. You'll get it regardless. We'll figure out a way to coagulate and get you your free ticket, whether you're here live for the show or not. I don't want our West Coast friends who can't watch a show at 7 a.m. Their time, or folks who are busy in the mornings, whatever. You guys don't have to be excluded from winning. Everybody deserves a shot to win. So we'll do that at the end of the show. We'll go through some of this pretty crazy training camp news that we've had so far this week, and then we will hop into a couple drafts, and then we'll give away some free tickets. That is the agenda for today here. Let me move my dome around here so we can see a little bit better. All right, let's start at the top of some of the news. Of course, this is not everything. I guess I should preface this by saying this is not all inclusive. There's absolutely no possible way that I could go through absolutely every single ounce of relevant news from every single training camp, and every injury situation and all that kind of stuff. But this is what I found to be kind of the most relevant. There's some stuff that's not on here, right? Like guys got banged up, but they're fine. Bashal Tutin had a hamstring thing, but he's fine. Juwan Johnson got banged up, but he's fine. Some of the more notable stuff is here on the list. We'll get to that in just a second, Sizzle. But first and foremost, I wanted to start with the fact that probably the biggest thing. I know there's a lot of injuries. I know there's different hype. I know we're excited about the preseason game from last night, but Terry McLaurin, wide receiver 1 for the Washington Commanders, a frequent. If you guys have watched this show, if you guys have watched our draft streams, particularly my draft streams over the summer thus far, you've probably heard, if I took Terry McLaurin or if I took Jauan Daniels, the chat would lose it, right? Specifically, if you take Terry McLaurin, if you didn't take Jauan Daniels with him. I certainly did not see a Terry McLaurin trade demand coming, but the folks were very excited to stack Terry McLaurin with Jauan Daniels in best ball. It's a very popular pairing. So Terry McLaurin demanding a trade doesn't feel great. he's falling already. I've seen a small fall in my drafts thus far. We haven't had a big enough of a sample to draw any firm conclusions, in my opinion, but I've seen a small fall of Jaden Daniels in drafts as well. Interestingly, Debo hasn't really moved up, but nonetheless, Terry McLaurin demands a trade. And how I would process this McLaurin thing is we don't generally see these kinds of guys get traded. It's not impossible, but if you remember just last summer, the Brandon Ayuk situation was eerily similar. Talented player, wants to get paid, probably deserves to get paid. Terry specifically, I think, is doing the right thing by himself. I think this is what he probably should do. This is this is almost certainly the last real contract of substance that he will get in his NFL career. He's 30 years old, off of the best season of his career, off of a season where he was the best offensive player outside of Jaden Daniels, of course, on a team that made it to the conference championship game. I think he should probably do this if they weren't going to pay him. But on the Commanders side of things, I'm not sure that a smart organization would give a huge chunk of guaranteed money over several years to a wide receiver who is very good, very good. He's not mega superstar level and is old by NFL standards. So I think we are at a bit of a stalemate here. If you had to put a gun to my head and ask me, what do you think happens? I think Terry McLaurin is back in Washington. They meet somewhere in the middle, but I could foresee a bit of a standoff here between the two of them. So I suspect that Terry McLaurin is going to fall. I'm going to kind of what I've been doing with all of these types of situations from a fantasy perspective in our best ball drafts, like we'll get to in a little bit here, is kind of sitting on the sidelines for a little bit and letting everyone else kind of figure out what the heck, everyone else, meaning the entire market, what they want to do with this situation. There's plenty of time to draft more guys. I think we rush to, because we get news on a certain player, we rush to, he's going to fall, I'm going to get him at a value now. And it may not be the pick you get him at today may not be a value in a week. It could be, but is a couple picks like that big of a meaningful value rather than waiting to gather a little bit more information? I think this particular situation is one that we probably need a little bit more information on. So if you have a contract, don't you have to play even if you don't like it? Yeah. So we'll touch on Jauan Jennings also in a minute. Yeah. If you have a contract, you do ultimately have to play. You will get fined, but if you've made enough money, and there'll be significant fines, but it's kind of, are you willing to pay the fines for missing time in order to get, tens of millions of dollars more guaranteed? So it's up to an individual player. Like, don't you have to play? Like, no, you can hold out, but you will pay fines if you for every day that you're not out there. And yes, the same thing would be for Jauan Jennings. He's a little bit of a different situation because he was not holding out. He also did not actually demand a trade. We're all still wondering where that came from. But enough on Terry. Isaiah Likely, tight end for the Baltimore Ravens. Unfortunate. Probably one of my favorite late round tight end selections this year. Go Ravens. Drafting a really good football player on the Ravens, that seemed fun. But small foot fracture is what they've called it for Isaiah Likely. He is having or just had surgery on it to repair it, and the approximate timetable is about 6 weeks in that recovery. Those are ballpark numbers. It could be 8, it could be 4, it could be 5. Who knows? Everybody responds a little bit differently to those things. But I think my tentative view on Isaiah Likely, we talked about it a little bit on yesterday or day before, is being cautious. I think that we'll be able to get some really nice values. I think that the format in which you draft him in is very important. If you're drafting in Best Ball Mania or the DraftKings Millie Maker versus the Drafters main event versus the marathon versus eliminator is very different for how you handle Isaiah Likely, just because you also just when a player is injured heading into the season, you naturally introduce a certain level of risk that was not there for that isn't there or wasn't there for a healthy person. And that these things can have setbacks. You can re-injure these things. We see guys, coming into the season and he'll be back by X week, and then there's still a ramp up period from there to get back to where they were. And it's a tricky situation. So I'm being cautious with Isaiah Likely, though. I think if we get a great price on him in these playoff format tournaments where, I can survive a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, even 4 weeks without Isaiah Likely, but can I have a very cheap, high upside tight end for the playoff weeks that can spike for me at the right time at now an even greater discount? Then I think that's particularly interesting. Bronco says a lot of times whatever fines they accumulate will just be covered in their new contract. That's exactly from Terry's perspective, that's exactly how he's thinking about it. I need to get that extra contract because I'm going to get $100 million. Obviously that won't all be guaranteed, but I'm going to get $100 million. Okay. I several $100,000 in fines I accumulate or whatever, that will be covered, so I'm still making more money by holding out. That, isn't always necessarily the case, but that is how you probably have to think about it. Darnell Mooney out a few weeks. The quote was a little bit bizarre. I can pull it up. But if there's a link out there, Raheem Morris providing an update on Darnell Mooney, and he's not very clear on Darnell Mooney, but he doesn't seem, every time you listen to Raheem Morris, this is just me decoding the intent from Raheem Morris which isn't always the greatest thing to do, but he's not clear on exactly how long this shoulder issue that he's going to be, but he never seems like upset. He never seems treating it like it's super serious. So I've discussed, in terms of these injured guys, Mooney is currently the least of my concerns, but I'm also very much monitoring that too, and constantly on the lookout for anything more tangible than what we've gotten. They keep acting not concerned, but I think we need to keep an eye out on Darnell Mooney. Are you more inclined to draft Likely in the Drafters $3 that's about to close compared to the main event? Yeah, because it's going to be closed and he's plummeting in ADP over there. Since it's about to close, you're guaranteeing yourself the best price on that guy in that entire tournament, Likely. So I think that's a good call from Walter, and eating it seems worth it for 10 mil plus. Yeah, for tens of millions of dollars for sure. For Terry, I wrote, Joe Mixon stuff is really murky. So if the Darnell Mooney situation is murky, the Joe Mixon stuff is even murkier. They're not saying anything really about Joe Mixon. Doesn't seem great. The only thing that they have said is he'll be reevaluated closer to the season. And it just doesn't seem great. I'm out on Joe Mixon at the current time because I know that they don't have to give us more information, but if they had like you see, like Isaiah Likely, we tell you what his injury is, we tell you what his timeline is, we tell you how we feel about it. The Texans are being incredibly coy about this whole situation with Joe Mixon. And there doesn't ever seem to be a reason to me to be this coy about it unless it's so much more serious than we expect, or there's at least a level of risk that is hard to even fathom. It's like I'm trying to think of a real life comparison, but why would you lie about something? Right? Well, you have something to cover up, of course. And it's why are they lying about this? They don't want the league to know that they're in dire straits. They did, however, say, here's a Nick Chubb quote. If you're rushing to, this Mixon thing might be bad, let's go get Nick Chubb. Here's a Nick Chubb quote. Didn't exactly instill a lot of confidence in Nick Chubb to be the guy that steps in for Joe Mixon. Guy's age. He's been through a lot. It's not always going to be the same as his early years in the NFL. But what I hang my hat on with him is that this guy loves football. He's physical. He plays and prepares the right way. Really sharp guy in the protection scheme. To me, that is a very polite way to say this dude is cooked. He's cooked. So, yeah, Peppertoni says, D'Amico, a former football player, doesn't want to put Mixon's business out there. But they put a lot of guys' business out there, is the problem. Like, they have happily put, last year, they put Tank Dell's business out there. You know, they put guys' business out there. They just don't, they don't seem to want to do it with, yeah, exactly. The Chubb quote from D'Amico Ryans was basically an obituary. Like, it seems really bad. There's also a Texans, like, I don't know how to call some of these people that are like reporters-ish or whatever, but has been at camp every single day and ranked what he has seen. Obviously, Joe Mixon is not practicing, but ranked what he has seen from the Texans running back room. And now this is just his speculation, but put Jawhar Jordan, if you recall, Jawhar Jordan from a second-year player out of Louisville, who was like kind of interesting last year for the Houston Texans to some of us total absolute sickos, as the best runner, at least amongst the Texans. And that was like it did pop up as interesting because I thought I actually wrote about this last year. Now, Jawhar was obviously useless last year, but from a scheme fit perspective and just a run talent perspective, Jawhar was like a really intriguing fit in Houston. And so to see him out there impressing in camp and folks viewing him as kind of the best back that has been out there for the Texans is intriguing. I have now had dabbled in a non-zero amount of 20th round Jawhar Jordan in drafts. I'm not making this some flag plant about this kid or anything like that, but I think that the tea leaves that we're reading here with Houston are very, very bad for Joe Mixon and Nick Chubb. Woody Marks, of course, is my favorite target here. He does have him second and calls Woody the best receiver amongst the group, which is really valuable to us. And obviously, we know Woody was a 4th-round pick. This year, they spent a bunch of future draft capital to acquire him. But long story short, I am going to sprinkle a little sprinkle of Jawhar Jordan at the end of drafts to start. Woody Marks, though, is currently my priority amongst the Texans backfield, and I am not touching Joe Mixon or Nick Chubb. If I'm wrong and those guys end up being good picks, I have some already, and we'll deal with it. But that's how I'm handling the Texans backfield. A little bit more rapid fire. Josh is going to draft Jawhar right now in round 20. We weren't wrong, just early on Jawhar. Exactly. If we could only get those big board and little board shares from Shriath says back, that would be a good. Mixing in the hundreds, though. Like, do what you want. I'm just the messenger, and I'm just telling you what if you feel like the juice is worth the squeeze in the hundreds on Mixon, he is not the kind of player that I want to take this level over. Is he going to play this year? If he does, is he going to be that Joe Mixon? Like, think about this. They don't have any idea when he's even going to return to practice. They're going to, it's not return to practice close to the season. They're going to reevaluate him close to the season, meaning he's just going to get looked at. It could still be bad then, and then he's out for a lengthy period heading into the season. Then he has to ramp up. He's got to get in shape. It's an ankle issue. So the conditioning is not there. Joe Mixon was already aging and not as good. He already doesn't really catch passes because he comes out on 3rd down. That's now the Woody role. They did bring in Nick Chubb. Is the juice really worth the squeeze? Like, even at pick 100, pick 120, there's good players there. We're drafting good players. Like, if we got to the very end of drafts, sure, we can make the argument, and I would still draft Woody Marks. Like, I know that may seem crazy, but I don't think that Joe Mixon is the kind of player I want to take that risk. I want to take that risk on. Everybody else has to decide on if that risk is worth it to themselves, and you may have a different opinion than me, and that's totally fine. But, like, this isn't Christian McCaffrey. This isn't Devon Achane or Saquon Barkley or Jonathan Taylor or something like that. This is aging Joe Mixon, and all the communication from the Texans is very, very bad. And if I lose to pick 120 Joe Mixon, I'm totally comfortable losing that way. But if I lose because Joe Mixon never plays a snap of football again, and I couldn't help but click him at pick 105, I would feel like an absolute moron. So that's my general approach. Jauan is holding in. So to the kind of Terry McLaurin stuff, Jauan did not technically request a trade, though he does want a new contract. And unfortunately, as part of that whole process, he had a calf injury like in the spring, and he re-aggravated that calf injury. How real is that? It is unclear. I'm not trying to go all tinfoil hat here. Kyle Shanahan said there's no set timeline right now for Jauan's return to practice. Is Jauan milking it because he wants the new contract? Is he really hurt? Is it really serious? Is it not serious? I don't have the slightest idea. So Jauan Jennings is a little bit of a black box that we are probably not going to get a lot of information on, which is going to suck for us, but I do suspect he will fall. Last night we had the Hall of Fame game. Chargers, Lions. Chargers rolled out like a lot of their like guys who are gonna like start week one, and the Lions rolled out like the fifth stringers. So take that with a grain of salt. Keandre Lambert-Smith was the talk of the town. Caught a nice deep ball and caught a slant for a touchdown at the goal line. Looked good. I did go back and watch. Football's back. I'm a football nerd. I love like grinding some of the tape, if you will, and such, which always cracks me up when people are like, does this guy even watch the tape? Because I do cite like a lot of data and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, brother, I would almost guarantee I watch way more than you do. And like I said, I'm such a nerd. I went back and watched all the first half when all the guys were in there for the Chargers, and when Tesla was in there for the Lions. And KLS had a good game. I don't think Trey Harris Trey Harris had one target overthrow from Trey Lance, and I don't think Trey Harris looked bad actually. He will fall because I think he's a polarizing figure as it is, and KLS is definitely going to rise because we are best ball sickos, and this is what happens. People get very excited, particularly the first game back, and when he's already been getting that he's playing well in camp, and I think that he is. I have no issues with KLS. This is not me slandering KLS. I'm probably going to move him up a little bit because I think just the more drumbeat from the Chargers, the more positive stuff he puts out there is good for him. I think Quentin Johnston is not someone I'm like super terrified that these rookies can overcome. I think that there's 4 interesting wide receivers for the Chargers, which is good for us. I think KLS is very much in the draftable pool. However, what I would say just from an overall preseason perspective, go back and look at historical preseason stats. The guys that pop in the preseason, in the moment, it feels like it really, really feels like it's something. But remember Marquez Callaway? Last year, the 3 leading receivers in all of the preseason last year. Ready? A.T. Perry for the New Orleans Saints, Simi Fehoko for the Los Angeles Chargers, and get ready for it, the 3rd leading receiver in the preseason last year. He went 3 for 82 and 1 in his first preseason game. Jermaine Burton. Jermaine Burton had a much better game than KLS had in his first preseason game. Not sure that year 1 went so great for Jermaine Burton. So it's fun. We should enjoy it. I think KLS, it looks interesting. But having a bad preseason really doesn't mean anything. And having a good preseason really doesn't mean anything. The drum beat has been good on all the Chargers guys. As Chris says, from my understanding, if you listen to Chargers camp, they're all pretty much Hall of Famers at this point. Reflective Sun says KLS running. 40 times or 40 times. I don't sweat the 40 times all that much. CeeDee Lamb ran 4.5 something, and Jalen Tolbert ran, 40 time is 40 time. There's a lot more that goes into playing wide receiver than just running fast in a straight line. You don't really do that very much as a wide receiver. Though KLS is athletic for sure. The big thing with the Chargers that I did want to note is, as Chris says, the other thing to take all of this hype that they're giving, because I put another quote here on the sheet. This is after the game last night from Harbaugh. It says Amari and Hampton pops every day. Keandre Lambert-Smith pops every day. So does Trey Harris. So does Aronde Gadsden. He has also been quoted as basically saying Lad McConkey it's completely uncoverable. QJ is playing at a high level. Kamani Vidal, right? If you listen to the Chargers, what they do is they glaze their players. They're obsessed with all their players. If you just take the Chargers coaching staff and beats at their word, the Chargers are the Monstars. They're going to beat everybody in the NFL by 1,000,000 points. And maybe they will. Maybe they are awesome, right? Maybe the Chargers are that awesome. But all we've heard from Jim Harbaugh is just these players are the greatest thing since sliced bread. So taking it with a grain of salt. Yeah, Jim is the ultimate players coach. I respect it. I like it. I think it's the Chargers look like a playoff team. I bet the Chargers to make the playoffs. I bet the Chargers to win that division. As a matter of fact, I like the Chargers, but we also just need to take it with a grain of salt that these guys aren't all the best football players of all time, and all he does is speak insanely highly about every single player. Then just to note on the Lions side, the Lions did not play like anybody. I thought the Isaac Tesla stuff was interesting, though the fact that he's playing in the game, he needs to get reps. He needs to get a lot of reps. I think he's like an interesting late season bet, though it's a little bit more difficult sometimes to make the late season bet on the Super Bowl contender type teams. But he's a really intriguing athlete. We'll see if he can continue to refine his game. But a couple nice plays from Tesla in the Hall of Fame game last night. This one is a little bit of bias from me, but I also thought it was an intriguing way for John Harbaugh to talk about Keaton Mitchell. So we're on the Harbaugh train here. John Harbaugh talking about Keaton Mitchell. And I thought when they phrase things in certain ways that are maybe not like the most tangibly notable, but just like, light bulbs go off or alarm bells go off or something like that. That was like the Chubb thing, right? The Nick Chubb quote was just like, oh my God, this dude, it's over. The Keaton Mitchell one was, he's smiling again. He's so explosive. He's electric. He's been the most electric player on the field in training camp. Like all that kind of stuff was like, okay, he wasn't right last year. He's back. This dude is back. So I've made it known I'm in on Keaton Mitchell, and every day, thank you. It was Munkin talking. But every day I'm just like more excited for Keaton. I think he's going to have a real role in the Ravens. Like, what is that? What does a real role mean? I have no idea. And I'm a believer that he can take on more than people think. As a runner, as a receiver, probably not yet as a pass blocker, but that remains to be seen. Justice Hill kind of thrives in that role. But I just think they continue to speak in ways that are relevant to his health and what his knee was looking like last year and what it looks like this year. And you want to talk about, speaking of 40 times, you want to talk about burners. Keaton Mitchell, that's a burner. That's one of the most explosive dudes in the entire NFL. Another guy who they speak really, really glowingly about in Buffalo every goddamn day is Keon Coleman. Now, the Bills are also a little bit of the Chargers-esque in that they love to hype their guys, but the way they've been speaking about Keon this year's much different than last year. He's flashing. He's this exciting young rookie. He's making some flash plays, but he's inconsistent and all that. There's still a certain level of inconsistency coming out of Keon Coleman's camp, but it's like night and day in how the other players talk about Keon Coleman as like, what I forget who it was. So forgive me if it was Shakir or someone else was like asked about Keon and said something like, well, you saw him. He just dominated today. Like he was unstoppable today. And that's just hype. That's not nothing. But every day this thing continues to build with Keon Coleman. And last year was I was not a Keon Coleman prospect fan. I was not a fan last season. But I think these are the kinds of guys, the second year, post hype sleepers. We were excited for that guy last year or at some point in the recent future. And now we've thrown them into the garbage. We haven't necessarily thrown Keon Coleman into the garbage, but I think the price is really nice. And I'm much more comfortable making that Keon Coleman bet given kind of the drumbeat that continues to build for him. Another one of my guys, Harold Fannin, but the Browns are, in quotes, putting a lot on Harold Fannon's plate. He has been repping with the ones. He most notably for me was in the 2-minute drill with the ones and caught like 1 million passes. He was most frequently targeted on the team when they did the 2-minute drill with the starters. He's moving all around the formation. They're throwing, there's clips of him out there on Twitter of him catching tight end screens. He's playing along, I think he will. My take on all of this is I think they have big plans for Harold Fannin alongside David Njoku. So I think our world, the fantasy world, thinks of, right, here's tight end 1, here's tight end 2. How could you ever draft tight end 2? And oftentimes the whole idea of 12, air quotes, 12 personnel is bullshit. The Raiders ran 12 personnel at just shy of 40% of the time last season, and that was the most in the NFL. So that's only 40% of snaps. How many times do you throw in that? The 12 personnel stuff is generally nonsense. But I think Harold Fannin is a little bit of a different type of a situation, and I think the Browns are a little bit of a different type of a situation. And I truly am buying the fact that this, I think he was a stud prospect and is doing the same thing as we're talking about with KLS and with Keon Coleman and with these different guys in camp. And specifically, they're putting that on his plate. He's playing with the starters. He's moving around the formation. He's playing out wide. He's playing in the slot. He's playing in line. He's doing everything that we would hope for him to do, whether it be alongside David Njoku or in his stead, if you will. Luther Burden is another fun one. You want to talk about a roller coaster of emotions during training camp is following the Luther Burden. Literally just yesterday on this channel, on this show, I was talking about how spooked I am about the Bears, and then Luther Burden went out and absolutely dominated Bears practice yesterday and had everybody's eyebrows raising, looking like the best player on the field, looking, everybody's doing what a steal the Bears got. And again, that's just one practice, but I think it goes to show how talented Luther Burden is. Ben Johnson's still going to coach him hard. I'm still very terrified of this Ben Johnson experiment or experience, I guess I should say, that's going on in Chicago. But hopefully Luther Burden is taking that hard coaching well because the talent has started to show a little bit. However, in Bears camp, if you've been investing heavily in Roschon Johnson, I'm still waiting to find out if he's alive. Hyperbole, but they don't talk about him. I think Coach Speak Index, which if you're not following Coach Speak Index and or you're not in Greg, the founder of Coach Speak Index's Discord, you are missing out on all the goods. The overwhelming majority of news that I get is from there. Of course, I follow 32 beat writers too. A lot of stuff that comes from 32 beat writers that isn't necessarily so relevant to us, but I just enjoy it. But the Greg put out some, however many, basically the Bears or Ben Johnson have spoken for 3+ hours in press conferences since the spring, and Roschon has been discussed for 0 seconds out of all of those times. They've talked about Swift. They talked about Monangai. Travis Homer has been mentioned. They've talked about every wide receiver, Colson Loveland, Caleb Williams, a bunch of defenders. They talked about everybody. One player that they have not mentioned, not once, not for a breath, is Roschon Johnson. They continue to talk up Kyle Monangai. So, look, I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm not saying they're just duping us here with this Roschon Johnson stuff. But no, thank you. I'm not interested. I'm kind of a Monangai guy, but we don't got to get into that because we're already getting deep and we got to draft some teams as well. But just notable, oftentimes you don't have to draft Kyle Monangai, but what happens at this time of year that I think is the most relevant is often the stuff that we find out that makes us not want to draft someone, right? I don't want to draft Joe Mixon. I don't want to draft Nick Chubb. I don't want to draft Roschon Johnson. I'm waiting out the Isaiah Likely fall a little bit. I'm waiting out the Jauan Jennings fall a little bit, right? That kind of stuff. The guys that I don't want to draft is really where I think our bread is buttered at this time, because you can talk yourself into just right. There's so much hype out there. You could talk yourself into anybody. But figuring out who to remove from your player pool, at least for for this week or a few days or whatever, is just as important, probably even more important. Just spilled my fucking drink on my shirt. That's what happens when you start talking about. See, Ben Johnson got me all fired up. Maybe his coaching tactics work. Can't even drink water sitting at my desk thinking about Ben Johnson yelling at his players, or not yelling at Roshan, I guess. Jermaine Burton. Here's another one that was. I do like this. I just said we won't talk about Monungai, but go watch some Kyle Monungai pass blocking. He's not like a super explosive guy, but I think he's a pretty physical, hard-nosed type runner. And you see that in his pass protection. He is trying to fuck dudes up in pass protection. The form could use a little bit of work, but the eagerness is certainly there. And I respect that. I'm a huge pass protection guy as a running back, which we'll get to something on that in just a minute. Jermaine Burton, another one that I'm not going to elaborate on. Jermaine Burton, you guys have probably heard me talk about him quite a bit as another like post type sleeper. I mentioned he had the big preseason last year. He was a 3rd round pick last year, really talented on the Bengals. We were really excited, and then awful, absolute disaster rookie season, mostly because he's a moron. But when that said moron, as Roshan, literally the only bear to not get. I think that's the lesson. Roshan is the only bear that hasn't gotten yelled at, which probably means it's just fucking over, because Ben Johnson's yelling at everybody, everybody else. When the coaching staff uses a word about a player like Jermaine Burton as consistent, they call him. He's had a consistent spring, a consistent start to training camp. He's playing consistently. That just is notable to me, because Jermaine Burton for the last 5 years as a football player, probably more, has been anything but consistent. He got ran out of Georgia and Alabama, and that ran out of the Bengals wide receiver rotation last year because he was inconsistent mentally, physically, everything. And him being consistent is like, has he changed as a human in 6 months? I don't know, but I just think that type of phrasing coming out about certain types of players is important for me. Cowboys Backfield, I mentioned. I talked about this in the Spike Week Discord, which of course you can join with the premium subscription. There's a link. You can get in for free, all that kind of stuff. But then all the good stuff, all the conversation is behind the paywall. How I'm thinking about the Cowboys backfield is I was a little more hyped. Certainly, I understand why other people liked or disliked, whether you liked Javonte, Jaden Blue, Miles Sanders, whatever. I hated them. I get every single perspective. So I'm not here for the millionth time to argue about the Cowboys backfield. What I am here to say is what we're seeing at training camp, to me, I think people are trying to take away bullish takes on whoever they want it to be about, right? Javonte and Miles Sanders are running with the ones. They are getting positive coach speak. But then Jaden Blue there's some highlights out there, and then he gets some run with the ones. The problem is that they're all getting it. They're all playing. There's quotes about, Brian Schottenheimer is excited for the roles all of these guys can carve out in the backfield. And when I say all of them, I mean, he spoke highly of Phil Maffa. He loves Hunter Lepke. KaVontae Turpin, I think he would adopt KaVontae Turpin if it was allowed, which I guess technically is allowed, but I don't think KaVontae would be that interested in that. I don't know, maybe. They're using all these guys. They're using receivers in the backfield. The Hunter Lepke is playing on passing downs because they love his pass protection. Javonte Williams is playing on passing downs because they love his pass protection. Miles Sanders is, I guess, looking better than what we thought Miles Sanders looked like, and Jaden Blue is fast, right? It's like they're playing all of those guys. This is nonsense. Jaden Blue looks like a hybrid of Gibbs and Achane. That's so disrespectful to those guys. Come on, reflect the sun. That's great. Jaden Blue is very fast in a straight line, and he's a fine pass catcher. There's a million highlights of him just getting pinballed around when he runs and knocked down and tossed to the ground like a rag doll. Jahmyr Gibbs is not that, and frankly, Devon Achane is not that. They are. It's such a mess. I don't see why I want to invest in any of those guys. All this reporting, how I phrased it, because I was guilty of this too. We want to be right about this situation. So polarizing, and we foresee that there could be a big winner from a fantasy perspective, we want to be right about it so bad, right? I told you Jaden Blue. I told you Javonte was cooked. I told you Jaden Blue stinks. I told you Jaden Blue couldn't get on the field at Texas. I told you, right? I was doing this too. We want to be right about it so bad that we like can't see the fact that they're playing 6 dudes at running back with the starters. They're playing a wide receiver at running back, plenty. Hunter Lepke is stealing valuable snaps, right? Like there just doesn't have to be we don't have to draft a Cowboys running back. You know who we can draft? Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens, and Jake Ferguson. And I am going to draft some KaVontae Turpin because he's a wide receiver who is also playing running back for these guys. Let's just draft the guys who are going to be out there every play and not a bunch of bad players who are in a 5-man running back committee, all because we just want to be right about it. That's what it is. We want to be right. And will we rather make money or be right? Some people would rather be right, and I get it. And I was falling into that trap where I'm here to make money. We don't need to do this. We don't need to. Thanks for lowering Blue's ADP. I mean, cool. Go for it. Yeah. He goes at pick 120 on drafters. I'm not lowering anything. People have anchored, like the whole Cowboys backfield conversation is like such a waste of time because the chat is anchored right now. I'm sitting here telling you that they're playing 6 guys at running back. And they plan to. Schottenheimer is telling us that. And people are still like Jaden Blue season or Jaden Blue stinks or whatever. It's like everybody's so anchored on their takes that it doesn't matter what happens, right? We're here every August to be like, what's happening in training camp? What can I adjust to? But for whatever reason, this Cowboys backfield stuff is so wild that like everybody, air quotes everybody, not everyone, but so many people, and myself included, were falling into this like, nope, I have my take. I'm not backing down. Whatever. I'm going to draft my guy and not the other guys. And it's just like, we don't have to do that. We don't have to do that. Not every backfield, even on good offenses, not every backfield has a meaningful fantasy winner on it, right? There can be other backfields and it can be the passing game from the Cowboys. The Cowboys offensive line, by the way, is a very serious question mark. They're really struggling in Terrence Steele specifically is a fucking turnstile in camp. I know he's banged up, but it's been a bit of a disaster. So I have concerns that they can even run the ball effectively anyway. So let's see. Yeah, so Williams couldn't do it with the Denver's number 2 offensive line. I want to get this out of the way. Denver does not have the number 2 run blocking offensive line. Whoever started spreading this misinformation needs to go to pff.com and go look at the actual data. They were nowhere near the number 2 run blocking offensive line. They were a good pass blocking offensive line. And B, Javonte Williams was coming off of a serious knee injury. The whole point of potentially betting on Javonte is he's not that old, and with another year back, he could be okay. Jaden, if we're doing this, so let's just do it, right? If we're doing the Cowboys thing, Miles Sanders hasn't been able to do it except when he was behind the Eagles offensive line, right? So this argument also goes against Miles Sanders. You know who else it goes against? Jaden fucking Blue, who at Texas couldn't do shit because he was behind not just one, not just 2, but 3 other running backs. CJ Baxter got hurt, tore his ACL in the preseason last year, and Texas said, no, we're going to play 2 other guys, true freshmen, over you, Jaden Blue. You can come in for some garbage time. We'll throw you some swing passes. You can try to pop a couple runs here and there, but we're really not going to play you very much. At Texas, in college, the majority of his production came in some splashes, in some garbage time stuff. So like we can't do that. That is the anchoring. That is saying I'm holding this one thing against Javonte, but I'm going to disregard the negative about. And like I said, I am calling myself out as well. But this is important at this time of year to not get anchored on those kinds of things. And I feel very passionately that we're all overlooking the fact that, dude, Hunter Lepke is going to play in the backfield. KaVontae Turpin is going to play in the backfield. Right? There's Javonte and or Miles and or Blue are all going to play. No one's denying that they're going to play. I am denying that like at pick 120, any of these guys are like a league winner. Why? Why do they have to be? Why does there have to be a league winner? Why can't it be George Pickens? You know what I mean? Yeah. Like I haven't even mentioned Deuce Vaughn. They like Phil Maffa. If you like Jaden Blue, why don't you like Phil Maffa? Phil Maffa was much better in college. He's a rookie this year too. If it's a bet against the other guys being bad, Phil Maffa is the most productive guy in this backfield, right? And I'm not saying take Phil Maffa. I'm just saying that's the problem with this whole situation. And I think Pepper Tony says Kevontae Turpin is probably the real answer. I'm going to, right now, moving forward, until we get, and we might get some more clarity, but we don't have it right now. We can wait. We can wait until we get some more clarity. It's okay. You don't have to have it. We don't have to take a stand on absolutely every single situation. We don't have to draft every single situation. Partially because there are other ones, which we'll get to here in a second, which I can draft. Let's skip down a couple. I can draft Tank Bigsby on the Jacksonville Jaguars. Also a pretty fun, exciting offense. Tank Bigsby, better college player. Last year was one of the better runners in the entire league. Now he has Liam Cohen. I can get him cheaper than all these Cowboys guys, Miles Sanders and Kevontae Turpin and stuff. I can get Tank Bigsby. He is playing with the one. He is every single day. He's the RB1 on the Jaguars. Not that, the other guys get in there a little bit, but like I can just draft Tank Bigsby. That seems good. Down at number 20, the Jets backfield. They keep telling us Braylon Allen and Brees are like a two-man tandem, a David Montgomery and a Jahmyr Gibbs. And Braylon Allen's price doesn't budge. They keep talking about Braylon Allen. One beat called him the star of the camp. He hasn't practiced the last 2 days because of knee soreness. But prior to that, beats were calling Braylon Allen the star of Jets camp. And people just disregard it because we gotta obsess over the Cowboys backfield. It's like there are opportunities littered everywhere across, especially running back, but across these later rounds in fantasy. But we're so fixated on the most polarizing ones, the ones that we argue about the most, that we're like missing the forest for the trees. So like, give me Tank Bigsby, give me Braylon Allen, give me this Texans situation. Like if Chubb is cooked and Mixon is hurt, they don't have 7 guys that they're playing in the backfield in Houston, and they got a 4th-round pick, Woody Marks, who's also a pass catcher like Jaden Blue, who is more productive in college. Whether or not you like him or not, there's opportunities everywhere. We don't have to try to continue to make the same ones. And like I said, I've been making that mistake. Just super quickly, and then we'll yeah. I mean, if you want to draft him. I'm just telling. I'm explaining the situation to you. Nothing is ever mutually exclusive, but that's kind of the point. Is you don't have to do this Cowboys backfield thing, right? How much exposure do you have to Braylon Allen? How much exposure do you have to Jaden Blue? Why can't we up our Braylon Allen exposure and just like pause on the Cowboys backfield? What specifically has happened in that situation that makes us so confident we have to invest in it? Right? I don't get it. It doesn't make sense other than we've argued about it all summer. That's the only reason it feels like people just have hot takes about that backfield that I think we're all so overconfident. We're so overconfident in the Cowboys backfield that it's leading to misjudgment. You know what I'm most confident in? I think if you gave truth serum to every single person, the thing they're actually most confident, we want a piece of the Cowboys backfield. Why? Why does there have to be a winner in the Cowboys backfield? I just explained why there probably isn't even going to be a winner in all the information that the Cowboys are giving us is that there's not a winner in the Cowboys backfield, but we are being stubborn and we are being anchored and saying, well, I just want a piece of that backfield. It's like, why? Do you always want a piece of the Chiefs backfield? The Chiefs go to the Super Bowl every year. They're a better offense than the Dallas Cowboys, and we haven't wanted a piece of their backfield that much. Who cares? Right? I want a piece of that backfield. The Jets are going to run for more yards and probably score more rushing touchdowns than the Dallas Cowboys do. The Texans, do you not want a piece of the Texans backfield? Without Joe Mixon, without Nick Chubb, do we not want a piece of that backfield? Do we not want a piece of, sure, you can draft them all. That's it. I just don't understand why we're so fixated on that one thing, despite the fact that we're here to use camp to get better and learn more information. And they're giving us more information and we're not waving the shit out of it. You know what I mean? But again, the truth serum is I want a piece of the Cowboys offense, but they're cheap. Lots of guys are cheap, right? They're cheap. Jaden Blue's not that cheap for a gadget pass catching back who mixes in with the first team offense. I didn't say Houston's not a shaky offensive line. I just said if you're so adamant you have to get a piece of the Cowboys offense, why isn't Houston? Why not Houston? Right? You're the one not applying it the same to both of them. We got to be fair. You guys are fixated on the Cowboys thing and not listening to what's happening. It's the thing I'm most passionate about happening here for sure. You can always double back. You can always go get some more, but not listening to what's being told to us by the team, by their practices, by the coaching staff, by all that kind of stuff, because we're stubborn. I want a piece of that offense, and I know better. I know better than Brian Schottenheimer, right? Doesn't matter what Brian Schottenheimer says. I want it. I want it. Even though, by the way, Brian Schottenheimer keeps saying, holy shit, George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb. George Pickens, CeeDee Lamb. That's all they actually keep talking about. But we only care about the backfield. It's nonsense. Marshawn Lloyd, injury, not long-term. Let's get away from the Cowboys thing. I can't believe you guys got me. Yes, Walter, it is absolute torture. It's torture talking about the Cowboys backfield. No one cares. People just want to say Jaden Blue goes Burr. You know, that's it. That's it. They don't care about, like, no one cares, myself included. Right. I want to continue to reiterate that I am as much a part of the problem as anybody. But all we're really trying to do here is say that we know ball. That's all people are trying to do. Yeah, but Shoddy said he doesn't view Blue as a limited back, but someone who can handle a full workload. Okay, it's the same thing for Javonte, same thing for Miles Sanders. He also talked about Hunter Lepke. He also talked about Kevontae Turpin. He also talked about Phil Maffa. So he can view all that one way. And but right? I noticed you didn't say anything about any of those other backs and the things he said about them. You only said about Jaden Blue because you're anchored and all you care about is the Jaden Blue take because you want to be right about we can admit it, right? I wanted to be right about the Cowboys thing. Are you yelling at takes on Twitter? No, I'm talking to you guys. I don't even go on Twitter. I'm talking to you guys. Are you yelling at a guy on YouTube? What are we talking about here? Okay, let's get back on track. Enough. Absolutely enough. This is the answer. Let's boycott all Dallas talk. Diamond hands. Yeah. If only best ball were crypto, that would be sick. Anyway, Marshawn Lloyd, came out of camp, came into that's all it is. This is just straight bag defending season. And I'm trying to help. I promise you guys. This has nothing to do with the Dallas Cowboys. We all fall into the bag defending part of things, right? Trey Harris doesn't catch a ball last night. You feel like it's bag defending, but I'm going to drop Trey Harris in the rankings. I'm going to move KLS up. I like Trey Harris. I'm still bullish on Trey Harris, but I can take in the information that we're getting and adjust, right? I liked Javonte Williams as the best bet in that backfield because I think he can actually consolidate the backfield. Jaden Blue, I don't care if Brian Schottenheimer says Jaden Blue can do it. I don't believe that he can. But again, that was me anchoring to my take. And it took a while for me to take a step back and say, you're kind of being pretty stubborn about this whole thing. Listen to everything they're saying. Actually listen to everything they're saying. Don't just listen to the Javonte things. Don't just listen to Jaden Blue is lazy, right? That's stupid ass take from the radio guy or whatever. Don't just listen to the stuff that's going to confirm your priors and make you feel good. Listen to everything. You're trying to win money, right? That's why we're here. Once you actually take a step back and you listen to absolutely everything and you're willing to admit you don't know everything because you don't, I don't, I think you can step away from the bag defending. It's because all we're doing is bag defending at this point. So Javonte, the one we want? No, I don't want any of them. I don't want Javonte. I don't want any of them. Damian likes Miles. Sure. I don't want any of them. Consigliere says I still have such a hard time taking Bigsby when all the hype is equally bullish for ETN and he's going to get the majority. Why is ETN going to get the majority? What I haven't seen anything as to why ETN is going to get the majority. I don't think that's true. ETN's been getting some work as a pass catcher. ETN's not that good of a pass catcher. ETN's going to play, but Tank is the cheapest back amongst all of the Jaguar. Like ETN was going at like in the 90s. That was crazy. I do like Turpin. If we're being honest about the Cowboys backfield, like if your bet is gadgety, explosive player, how about the guy who also plays receiver and he's going to play in the backfield? Can I interest you in that guy? Right? If the bet is he's very fast and going to make some big explosive plays, if he's also going to play wide receiver and get play in the backfield, that guy seems good. Marshawn Lloyd was the RB2 to start camp in Green Bay, which was nice and bullish. I was a little bit worried if Marshawn Lloyd would be the actual RB2 heading into the season. Emmanuel Wilson played quite well. They seem to really like Emmanuel Wilson in Green Bay. Then, of course, as Marshawn Lloyd does, soft tissue injury. Luckily, the Packers have come out and said it is not a long-term thing, though he's probably not going to be at practice this week. So just something to continue to monitor on Marshawn Lloyd. If Turpin makes your lineup, you're in 12th. Why? If he gets targets and carries, if he scores a touchdown, if Michael Wilson makes my lineup, am I in 12th? If Josh Palmer makes my lineup in 12th, why he's on the Cowboys? I thought we just said we wanted a piece of the Cowboys. They're cheap and we want a piece of the Cowboys. How about the guy who's going to play running back and wide receiver? That seems good. Sorry, we're fired up. It's a good Friday. I love you guys. This is fun. I'm having fun. I hope you're having fun too. If you hit like, we're having fun, boys. It is ladies and gents. We're having fun. There's no bigger fool than the one who knows everything. And I feel that because sometimes you get out over your skis. You're feeling really big in your britches, like you really know ball. And then the season plays out and you're just like, I didn't know any of that, dude. Like I like we're so wrong all the time, but we're so fucking confident in the summer, right? We're so confident in the summer. Damian loves the fired up rants. I'm also here's a rant about the rant. This is the good stuff. Like you guys having it take like us going back and forth, like digging in and like really talking shit through. It's like that's the point, man. Like nobody's mad. Like it's passion, being fiery or having passion, right? Or like caring about the subject that you're talking about gets misplaced for like anger and hatred and all that. Like I'm not happy, or I'm not happy. I'm extremely happy. I love talking to you guys. This is fucking fun, right? I'm gonna go take my dogs for a walk after this, go to the gym, be happy as a clam, draft some best ball teams. That's great. It's a wonderful Friday. It's like getting lectured by my father. Sounds like you need a father. Just here for the Price is Right references. No, I'm with you, Shriath. Never. I want to make that clear though, because I think sometimes people like it'll be viewed as like shade or anger or anything. Absolutely not. It's passion for sure. You can tell that I care. I mean, I made this stupid shit my job, my career, which is insane. But it's just passion. It's all love. If I didn't care, you wouldn't hear any passion from me. And there's probably some times where you don't. That is for sure. I want to see your. I have 0 Jaden Blue. Damien asked, I want to see your exposure to the Dallas Cowboys now. A little bit of Miles Sanders, and I was drafting Javonte before. That's part of where the like rant came from, and the discussion came from. Is I'm not at all drafting Javonte anymore. I'm out. I'm not drafting the Cowboys back. I'm not drafting any of the Cowboys backfield unless you include Kevontae Turpin, I guess, in a sprinkle of Turpin in the last round. I'm drafting CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens, Dak Prescott, Jake Ferguson. That's my plan of attack. The lesson, which is like the perfect kind of synopsis of this, we can change it. You're allowed to change your opinions as you gain more information. Last year, I wasn't drafting Jordan Mason in May and June. Not even for July. But then I got new information that said, I think this Jordan Mason guy might be the best pick. If I stayed anchored and I said, no, it's Eli Mitchell. What do you mean? Jordan Mason. He was a fullback at Georgia Tech. What are you talking about? It's not him. It can't be. And I just stayed anchored. That was wrong. But we adjusted. We found out Jordan Mason was the guy and we hammered him right? And so I think it was wrong to take the stance that I did. Now I'm adjusting. Yeah, 100%. It's that's the fun. I promise you this is not me. I'll tell you that. I won't say it out loud, but I promise you that's not me. I live for the like back and forth. That's the fun part. I don't really give a fuck if you guys just come and agree with me. I want like how do I get better? How do you get better? All right, let's wrap and then let's draft. Let's do some drafting. Talked about Tank. We talked about Marshawn Lloyd. Just keep an eye out, I think, on the Marshawn Lloyd stuff. Anthony Richardson, we talked about him a little bit the other day on the show. If you missed it, go back and check. I think it was Wednesday, but I classified Anthony Richardson. I'm like on the scale of aren't you worried about Anthony Richardson? Like we're a really high, maybe not a 10, but probably a 9. Like I'm terrified of Anthony Richardson. That is for sure. However, he scores fantasy points when he's on the field. And thus far, the reports are very good about Anthony. He's been generally the quarterback one ahead of Daniel Jones, and they're talking that he's playing well. What does that mean? I don't know. But as Kevin Malone on The Office said, if somebody gives you 10,000 to 1 on anything, you take it. And that's how I feel about Anthony Richardson. I don't have to like it, but I'll toss $1 on that 10,000 to 1 Anthony Richardson bet. That's how I feel right now. Also think he's very cheap in a quarterback class for fantasy, like not real life. In fantasy, where there's not a lot of back end guys that I care about. Like Tyler Shuck isn't even the Saints starter right now. Russ and Dart, Aaron Rodgers ain't going to score fantasy points, not like to big degrees. Like there's not a lot late. And so if I want a high upside fantasy quarterback, it's AR for me. Hollywood Brown notably said this offseason, his goal was to work towards doing the best he can do to stay healthy. And then he got hurt. It doesn't seem to be a long-term deal, but with the Rashid stuff, Royals has an opportunity to take the bull by the horns here. So just more, anytime I can hype up Jalen Royals, I'm in. Noah Fant signed with Cincinnati, and please don't draft. Please don't draft Noah Fant. Him and Mike Gesicki also play different positions, so don't worry about Mike Gesicki with Noah Fant. Here's one. We did do the Jets 1A, 1B backfield, but Devin Neal, rookie. If you've been drafting Devin Neal, I have not been drafting Devin Neal, but this is another one of those. There's a little bit of hype, but the specific things the coaching staff talked about with Devin Neal got me excited because I mentioned that I am a huge best ball bro. I am a huge best ball bro, a huge pass pro bro for my running backs. It's really valuable to be if you want to consolidate the backfield, right? This is the Cowboy. This was part of my Cowboys thesis, which has failed me thus far. But the guy who can consolidate the backfield because they can protect their quarterback. They can obviously Devin Neal is a solid running back. I liked him at Kansas. The athleticism left a little bit to be desired in his testing, but there's an opportunity with the Saints. Although they're a bad offense, it's him and Kendre competing. I'm just gonna say it's just those two competing to kind of be the guy alongside Kamara. We know that Kamara is the starter and will get the most work, but Kamara is far from some, peak CMC level, Le'Veon Bell level workhorse. He gets spelled a lot. And so there's something there in this backfield. The ability to be out there and protect your quarterback is like really valuable from our fantasy sense, but the coaches also really care about that kind of stuff. So if Devin Neal is doing really well in pass protection and having a good camp is overall kind of what they've been saying, very notable to me. And so I've not been a Devin Neal bro as up until this point, but I'm probably going to sprinkle a little bit. Another one I can take that guy. Right? I can take a Devin Neal. I can get shares of a lot of these different guys and maybe move my exposures around to some stuff that it should have been at. All right. Whew. God damn, guys. I did not expect. I thought we were going to walk through some camp news. I thought Thought we were gonna. Let's get out of here. I am going to hop in. Let's see. Let's see. The $20. Let's fill one of these. Let's fill one of these main events on Drafters. How about that? It's unclear if we'll be able to get two drafts in today, but let's passport bros. But I'm in the process of trying to renew my passport because we're going out of the country in the fall. And god damn, what a terrible process that is. Just absolutely awful. I am the Kai says no Cam Akers. No. What do we win with the perfect timing? Bernie says, what's the new main event promo? We filled here. Chris says, do you think the Bengals bring in another body after Moss gets released? I bring in another body for camp? Maybe. I think they're going to keep 3 running backs on the roster. Obviously, Chase Brown, Taj Brooks, and Samaje Perine is my guess. I don't think they'll keep a 4th. So, and they might have already brought in a camp body. For all I know, I don't follow kind of the end of the roster comings and goings. But I didn't think about this. But my expectation is that the Bengals will roll with, and that was my expectation before Moss got released anyway. It's Chase Brown, Taj Brooks as kind of the backup to Chase Brown, but Perine as the 3rd down back. This is not entirely wrong. They love Kyron as like the gritty, hard nose, right between the tackles, runner, and all that kind of stuff. But Damian says pass pro is the only reason Kyron has a job, which is funny because he hasn't graded out that well in the NFL from a pass pro perspective. But they love him and trust him in pass pro. He was awesome in college. There's a Twitter thread by me out there. I loved Kyron at Notre Dame. So shout out to me for being early on Kyron Williams. But again, being a pass pro bro really helped in the Kyron Williams eval, because if you watched him at Notre Dame, he was an awesome pass blocker, a good receiver too. That's good. That's good. Yeah. Damien says, other Damien, 2 Damiens. Other Damien says Taj Brooks could be sweet. I love Taj. I'm very in on Taj. There's another guy. I need to get my right. We won a piece of the backfield. Taj Brooks. Would you like a piece of the Cincinnati Bengals backfield? Sure, he's the backup, but it's right. That's a valuable backup. And yeah, I can't believe too many Damiens. I can't believe how fast Taj ran the 40. I kind of thought, he's like a short, stout guy. I almost said a mean word, but it's short, stout guy. And he's quick, a lot quicker than I thought he was going to be. We shall see. We went on a long time with a half-hour Cowboys backfield tirade, so it is unclear if we will be able to pop in a mini after this. But did draft one fast and get free tickets? Okay, Bernie, that is not helpful. Now I need to know. Let's see. Draft. Oh, okay. Draft consecutive days into the main event. Oh, wow. Okay. So draft 10 consecutive days and get a free $20 ticket plus a $10 pick'em ticket. Draft 20 consecutive days. Interesting. 20 consecutive days, get 2 free tickets plus a $25 pick'em ticket. Draft every day this month and you get 3 for free. Plus a $50 ticket. So that's a bunch of tickets. That's a bunch of tickets. We'll do Nico. He says as he hates on the Houston Texans and the Houston Texans offensive line. WFN Warehouse says my favorite builds on here have been 3 running backs through 5 with 6 wide receivers through 9. I don't think I love 3 running backs through 5 as much, but 2, I've been, don't tell anybody, but I've been a pretty big fan of 2 running backs through 2 running backs through 5. And I say that, but I'm going to take Brock Bowers. I do not have. I believe this is only my second Bowers plus Nico team, which that doesn't seem right. Doesn't seem very good. Doesn't seem like the sharp move. Sorry, Self, I missed your comment. So let's assume Mooney's shoulder issues continue, and he only plays 8 to 9 games this year. Which Falcon do we need to start drafting? So I hate that you asked this because I was just reading about it this morning, and the Falcons OC did say they've moved Ray McLeod outside some into the Darnell Mooney spot. So I fear that who was it? D-Lou? Yeah, where's D-Lou left, I think, the chat after we talked about Ray McLeod because he liked him. And D-Lou may end up being right in that in this scenario that you're envisioning. It's possible. They've talked about Ray McLeod moving outside to replace Mooney while he's out. They have also talked about Casey Washington, second-year wide receiver out of Illinois, Casey Washington. Those would be my two guys. Yeah, Ray led the Falcons in routes last year. That's why we think he stinks, because he ran a lot of routes and did a lot of nothing. A lot of slot routes, a lot of not open routes, a lot of non-targeted routes. But at a certain point, like if Darnell Mooney is not there, like the ball has to go somewhere. Drake London can't get it every time. And God forgive me if I don't think that Kyle Pitts is going to take over an offense. So like at a certain point, it does matter. But I think the offense needs Darnell Mooney. Yeah, they took Casey Washington in the 6th round last year. Don't quote me on that. He's a very, very, very forgettable prospect, Casey Washington. Let's see. Yeah, 6th round. Pick 187. He's from Pflugerville High School. Yeah. Yeah. Casey Washington and the Sunshine Band. Not quite that Casey, but dude, I agree. Honest to God, Consigliere says Kyle Pitts' season is so obvious because the slappies have finally given up. Honest to God, I need to make sure that I'm at least. Oh wow, Devontae at 34, huh? Okay. I had a guy in the YouTube comments. I'm not going to go on another tirade because I apologize for doing that once already today. But someone said, all these people drafting Puka in the 1st round, did they not know that the Rams got Devontae Adams? And like, if you're listening, I'm sorry, but like, we know, and good, like good. Like, I'm happy that they got Devontae Adams. Score some fucking touchdowns. Like, Puka's actually going to score some touchdowns now because the offense is going to be good. That sounds good to me. Let's pull somebody up here. George Pickens, Dorito. I was thinking about pulling up Pickens after ranting about the Cowboys passing game, and I see our good friend Dorito, who is on what number draft is this? I can't see it. 140 something. Almost done. Michelle, thank you. I was curious where Pflugerville was, just outside of Austin. That's good to know. But this is, I really think, just like straight game theory perspective, like I don't even know if this is game theory, right? But like when everyone gives up, it is often a good time to dive in a little bit. And I do feel that about Kyle Pitts. Everyone, myself included, who've been on him for years and years. And the team is speaking very positively about him. Does that mean anything? Probably not. But I don't know. I think it's worth some shares. I don't think I could like mentally handle having just a huge bag of Kyle Pitts, but I think it's probably the right move to have some. Plug your nose. Yeah, exactly. Warren Buffett. This is fair. Damien says Cousins was pretty bad last year. Don't think we can take a lot away from what happened last year. I can't argue that at all. Yeah, a great example of this. J.K. Dobbins. What was J.K. Dobbins last year on the Ravens? Was it his last year? Anyway, J.K. Dobbins was going in like the 5th round a few years ago. He was healthy then on the Ravens, and I loved him as a player. Loved. And I love the Ravens. The Ravens were my highest exposure team that year. J.K. Dobbins is my highest owned running back in like in that like 5th round or something. And then I think he even fell that year. I think that's why I ended up just having a huge bag of J.K. Dobbins. And then was it game 1? It was early in the season, if not game. I think it was the 2nd quarter of game 1 was when he tore his Achilles, and he had already scored a touchdown too in that game, which was really painful. Not like. That's not why it was painful for him. It was painful because he tore his Achilles, not because he scored a touchdown. Though with his body, maybe it did hurt when he scored the touchdown. And I kind of gave up after that, despite being a huge J.K. Dobbins bull. And then he lands last year in a really good situation. And I did the thing that we were just talking about earlier. Like, my tangent is 100% like a me looking in the mirror and being like, dumbass, you've done this thing wrong so many times. Maybe it's time to learn a little bit. And like I did the J.K. Dobbins thing, just being like, nope, I know he's not healthy. I know it. Can't draft him. Not healthy. It's like, but everybody thinks that. And he's going in the 17th round, and he might be the starting running back on the fucking Chargers who you like. Again, you don't have to like take bags of that guy, but you probably should have had something. You were that confident. You're drafting Evan Hall and Deneric Prince and Carson. Those guys. I couldn't sprinkle some J.K. Dobbins. Like, how stupid is that? I'm gonna do Harvey. I've noticed I have a tick more Henderson than Harvey here. And I also have some 6th round wide receivers that I'm interested in. Yeah, apparently, Damien says apparently Achilles tears aren't as severe now. Like Durant and all these guys keep coming. They're happening like crazy now, especially in basketball, these Achilles tears. But these guys just keep coming back. Like, what the hell, man? That was like a career ender not that long ago. It was a career ender in all these sports. Okay. If you guys are going to give me Harvey Henderson, we're going to do it. Exactly. Be fearful when others are greedy, and greedy when others are fearful. Shame on you for talking me into 4% Kyle Pitts. That's a good number, isn't it? You're not going to be like so mad when he's actually good, but you also don't give a shit if he's still Kyle Pitts. Right? As other Damien's. We're going to call D and J. DNJ says, JK was my most drafted player last year, fizzled at the end, but still valuable. Extremely valuable. 40%. Amazing. Huge kudos to you. It's just a total whiff by me, And that's the thing. I'm trying to, people want to learn from like, learn from your prospect model or your Sims or what, like learn from that. Like, I don't care about any of that. I care about like, if your model doesn't change, you're never still gonna, right? Your model is just your human brains. Your Sims is just your human brain putting things into a math equation, right? Oversimplifying. The human inputs are what go in feed into these technologies, right? So even if you're like just straight data backed, it's like if you don't change the things you're using, the inputs that you're using, your output is never going to change. And so if I'm still inputting, I know better that J.K. Dobbins is completely useless and cooked, like I'm not gonna get better. And so I'm trying to find those situations, right? And I was doing that with, not to bring up the Voldemort backfield, I was doing that with the Voldemort backfield. I know better, stubborn, right? Kind of a situation. And Brian Schottenheimer and the Cowboys are just slapping me in the face with all this information, and I'm just swatting it away, right? Just swatting it away. Pitts has shown he can have ceiling games, which 100% fading at tight end could be a dagger. Definitely. I agree. I'm not expecting him to be a dagger, but he's a great example of this, of like, how confident are you really? And everybody should play the game differently based on how they want to handle like exposures and stuff, right? If it's an exposure question, then, if you want to like really place all your chips on certain individual players, which leads to a lot of big fades, if you want to play the game that way, you're not going to get any pushback from me. I kind of love it when people just put their balls on the table and go for it. But if you're drafting like a whole shit ton of teams, and if you like the Falcons offense, like I like the Falcons offense, then like you should probably have some of that guy, this super cheap tight end on this offense you're heavily invested in, who was had 1,000 yards as a rookie. Did you guys take all the good wide receivers here? Son of a bitch. Let's do Godwin. Still waiting for updates on Chris Godwin, by the way. Wish they would give us a little more information would be nice about, this guy you just re-signed. Mike Evans is apparently doing his farewell tour. We're hearing plenty about that. Where's the Chris Godwin news? All right, I'm going to scroll down. Something I'm doing a little bit more of is, I know, so this is a small reach on Keon, but he's probably not going to come back to me. But pulling him over here has been a fun little way to beef up some Keon exposure and avoid this kind of like like this spot in the draft is just like straight dead zone of like every position. I don't want to fall into the trap of forcing guys I don't love. I don't love Aaron Jones. I don't love Brian Robinson. We talked about Mixon, ETN. The price on ETN is absolutely, whether or not we agree, like Consigliere brought up the ETN versus Tank thing, like whether or not we like agree on all the specifics of who to target and all that kind of stuff, I feel like we can agree that pick 91, 92 for Travis Etienne is crazy, given the information we have now. Maybe it wasn't crazy before, and I think it was probably pretty fucking crazy before, but the information we have now, this is nonsense, like absolute nonsensical price. But I don't want to take these guys just to take them, right? Obviously, I'll take the quarterbacks if it makes sense on this team, but they didn't make sense on this particular team. So like, don't be a slave to ADP if you don't love these guys. And that's another thing, right? I was being stubborn in like a player take situation before, and being stubborn in like, oh, well, shoot, I guess I'll take some Aaron Jones here. It's like, do you like Aaron Jones? Like, well, no. Do you like Keon Coleman? Yes. But just take him. Just take that guy. There's no rule that says you can't. He's not going to get back to you anyway. Who cares? That's funny. This is a great way to put it. Godwin's on the Noah Brown update schedule, which is like, I don't know what, like eventually we'll tell you. He got an MRI, but we're not going to tell you what happened. Like, kind of important. telling me he's getting an MRI and then not telling me what happened in the MRI for 6 weeks is cruel and unusual punishment. And I realize I'm saying that about the wide receiver 3 or 4 on the Washington Commanders. But look now, that seems important. Terry McLaurin demanded a trade. I could have been drafting Noah Brown during that time if I knew he was fine. That would have been sweet. Dickheads. Exactly. ADP doesn't matter. That's not bad. Kai got ETN at 127 yesterday. How has Pat Bryant shifted for you over the summer? Does he feel like his ADP is too high? Yeah, I think his ADP is a little too high. I'm still intrigued by the player. I'm certainly intrigued by the Broncos offense, but I don't think we've seen enough to warrant him being so far ahead of Franklin and Vele. And then you could say that about Mims as well. Henny taking Jalen Lane. There's another one that I don't like that profile. It's not a guy that it's not a prospect I really like, and it's not a archetype of a player that I really like. This small little jitterbug slot receiver. However, they spent draft capital on him. Now we got the Terry situation, and I need to make sure I'm open to those kinds of players as well. He's another good example of that, of don't anchor too hard. Again, I don't need to take an absolute shitload of this guy, but a sprinkle can be okay. Can I ask why Baker keeps falling? I'm going to end up with a decent amount of Baker, completely unintentionally, honestly. Look at this quarterback run. I knew it. Amen. ADP, by definition, is an average, i.e. that guy goes higher and lower than that number. Build the best team. Bingo. Says Tony. Totally agree with you. Do I double tap the QB thing here? Build out a Broncos deal. Do I get my Tyler Warren up? Do I get my Tucker Kraft up? No, speaking of reaching, let's go get Burden, huh? Haven't you guys seen Luther Burden responding to getting cussed out by Ben Johnson? That's a dog. Straight dog. Good call. Which is funny because you can also take a Buka. You can take him with Bucky too. There's so many options to draft Baker with. I think I'm going to have a bunch of Baker now with this. Chris says ADP matters when it fits my narrative. Oh, this is the way. I agree. This is the way to do it. You can definitely reach, but you got to take values too, even if you're not in on the player. I agree with this to a certain extent. There are certain players that I don't think you have to necessarily. You can X guys out, or you can if a guy goes at pick, let's just say a guy goes at pick 130 on average, and I have him ranked at 185, and he falls to 145. It's that's a value by ADP, but it's not a value by how I value the player. You need to come up with a new word. Too much value. So it's a push. Oftentimes you're correct, but also there is an element to the player eval and the player rank. That's, we got to factor in all this. BMAC, are you buying the Mooney injury dip? I am, though I wish they would be a little bit more clear. I am. So full transparency, I am. But I'm also trying to not have my season dependent upon Darnell Mooney. It's going to be partially dependent upon Darnell Mooney, but I don't want. I like Darnell Mooney this year, which is another straight cope from last year. I was totally out on Darnell Mooney, and what an absolutely idiot decision that was. Nonetheless, and so I'm in on him this year, which probably means you should be out. So I'm buying it cautiously. Does that make sense? I'm not gonna get overboard on buying the Darnell Mooney dip, but I'm definitely buying it for sure. Bird and Coleman Day before y'all slap them up. And he says, yeah, I'm with that. Can also, obviously not on drafters, but Versera says you can also take Baker on a reverse week 17 stack with Tyreek and Waddle. That is true. Baker's ADP was too high to start with. I had him like close enough to the ADP. I understand why people say that, but like I think the Bucs offense is going to be freaking awesome. And so like just give me him. It was too high in that there was a couple wide receivers that went after him that probably should have gone before him, including his teammate Mekabuka. But like from a quarterback perspective, like whether he goes at ahead, or like one pick ahead of Bo Nix or one pick after, like it doesn't really matter that much. We can do. Oh man, I do not have Goff with any of these dudes. I have 6% total Jared Goff. No Jared Goff with who is this? No Jared Goff with Baker. 2% with Harvey. Yeah, okay. To the podium, Jared Goff. Don't have Jared Goff with any of these guys. That seems bad. Yeah, this team rocks. We're having fun. This is a fun show. We get to argue about the Cowboys. Draft a sick ass team that's going to win $500,000. Oh no, Javante's on the board. We can add Rashad to this. We'll add Rashad to the Bucs stack. I like him. I like him with Baker actually. With his pass catching, especially on a team with Harvey Henderson, I think Rashad, right? A Bucs stack with Harvey and Henderson, Rashad's a really nice fit on that team, archetypically. Yeah. Mixon is a huge ADP value right now in this draft. Yeah, that's another thing about ADP values. Like during camp, guys are going to fall and they're going to be ADP values. But do you take all of the Mixon, Mooney, likely Godwin, probably Trey Harris as he falls today? Like, do you take every faller? Right? That's the ADP value balance part of it. Jason says, I don't think it's great that people are already calling Burden fat and slow like he's an. People are calling Burden fat and slow? I haven't seen this. Yeah, BMAC Mooney says, week 1 in question makes it seem like it may be more serious than a normal training camp injury. Yeah. I just want to, they're like, on one hand, being pretty positive vibes about it. And on the other hand, being like, rather unclear about it, which puts me in this murky middle spot where I feel good about buying the dip on Mooney, and yet I feel uncomfortable buying the dip on Mooney. So it's a delicate balance. Oh, here's a question. 2 meals in a cart, which is hilarious. A poll for the chat. Which rooms are softer? Daytime or late evening? Haven't done any. So I'm not sure I can answer this question because I don't really do late evening drafts anymore. I'm pretty much exclusively a daytime drafter, which means the rooms are softer during the daytime because I'm in there. So the sharps come out at night. Better grab Shipley. Now, good question. Has there been any news on Jarquez or any Rams running backs? Yeah, general positive vibes on all three: Kyron, Jarquez, and Blake Corum for the Rams. So nothing like stand out like, oh, like this guy's popping above the rest. They just fucking love Kyron Williams. But Jarquez is doing well in camp, but so is Blake Corum. So I don't have anything like super big to glean away from that backfield. Consigliere says for sure late evening. West Coaster. Anyone drafting after that makes sense. Anyone drafting late, the East Coasters drafting late. West Coast time. Probably been engaging in some fun engaging in some fun. How zero? I haven't drafted Kyle Williams. Sure. Late evening and hope people go into auto draft. They've been booze hounding or popped a gummy. Why is the coordinator change not a concern for the Bucs, but it is for Lions? I'm not concerned about the coordinator change for the Lions. I'm not concerned about the coordinator change for either, for me personally. What I will say, and this is actually kind of the case for both of them, is that it was like internal promotions, so the infrastructure is all the same. The Bucs actually made sure that Liam Cohen could not bring the assistants with him. So they lost Liam Cohen, but kind of everybody else that was there is hold on. Get your guys. Get your guys. We won't even talk about who we just drafted there. The audio listeners can guess, and they will know because I won't say the name because it's my highest owned player, and we don't got to talk about him again. Though if I have to hear one more fucking AJ Dillon question, I'm gonna lose it. I'd rather talk about I swear to God, I would rather talk about the Dallas Cowboys backfield for the next 3 hours than ask somebody then someone be like, aren't you worried about AJ Dillon? Like, no. Have we not watched AJ Dillon play football? No, I'm not worried about AJ Dillon. If AJ Dillon beats me, cool. Hand up, white flag waved. But among all the things, in best ball, I'm like truly terrified of like 20,000 things. Every player has things that scare the shit out of me. CeeDee Lamb has things that scare. CeeDee Lamb's my 102 and has things that I'm terrified about. But so of all the things to be worried about, right? Godwin, health, Mike Evans, old, retirement coming soon, just like a million different things we could be worried about with all these guys. Jared Goff, the OC changes. Are you worried about that? Yes, I'm worried about absolutely everything. Of the list of aren't you worried? AJ fucking Dillon can't get much lower. It can't get much lower. I'm with you, B-Mac. Yeah, this one. We do this. This is what we do. There becomes certain polarizing conversations. South says the Travis Hunter playing wide receiver / corner discussion is also a repeat. That's what we do. We pick a couple things that no one knows the answer. Like none of us know, right? None of us know the answer to the Cowboys backfield. None of us know the answer to what Travis Hunter's playing time is going to be. You know why? Because the teams don't fucking know. How could we possibly know? We act like we know. Brian Schottenheimer doesn't have the slightest clue. They're more than a month away from their first game. Doesn't have the slightest clue how he doesn't know who's going to be active. Nonetheless, how he's going to divvy up the touches. But we are so confident, right? That's like the Travis Hunter. Liam Cohen doesn't know how much Travis Hunter is going to play offense versus defense. That's what this next month is about. What do you think they practice for? But we know on August 1st how this shit's going to shake out. Of course we don't. But God damn it, we love talking about it. And so we repeat it because we're very confident in our takes, even though we know inherently that we don't know. But we love to tell people that we know, right? The Travis Hunter conversation, all these different Jags backfield. Frankly, the Jags are a good one overall. I'm sure there's several other that I can't think of off the top of my head right now. But man, I'm definitely not positive that Bigsby has passed ETN. I'm not positive about anything with the Jaguars. That is for sure. Oh, look, there's Roshan. I do not have enough Rico Dowdle. And I don't love Rico Dowdle, but he got some interesting, didn't bring him up because I didn't think it was like super important in the camp notes. But there's a quote from Canales about just like how excited they were to be able to get Rico Dowdle. Like how he's they basically asked, the question was essentially, was like Dowdle here to like be the pass catching back? And he basically said sort of a weird answer, but like speaking positively about Rico, but he basically like talked about how much how excited he was to get Dowdle. And he talked about how good of a receiver and a pass protector he is, which I thought was interesting. And because Chuba did, didn't gain a lot of yards, but he did catch several passes last year. Okay, now I'm gonna go get another. We're going get your guys season on this team. I'm getting Keaton because I don't trust. I'm far past the days of trusting you sons of bitches in these drafts on guys that I love. We talked about Dowdle as like being able to do everything, but they love his like pass game work, which like again my ears kind of perked up a little bit, as you guys know. The pass bro heard the words pass bro, and the ears perked up. But I just been like drafting it. I like Rico Dowdle. I just been right. Obviously, he goes next to Will Shipley, Braylon Allen. I pull some running backs up there. There's a handful of wide receivers. Diami, he goes near in the Diami range, which I love. Diami Brown. So I just haven't gotten quite enough, and I need to get more. Let's see. Shipley will not be a bell cow. Yeah, no one is a bell cow. So like I always push back on this type of thing, but like Shipley is a smash if Saquon goes down. Whereas I don't think Dylan is a smash if Saquon goes down. Shipley is going to be the lead, whatever we want to call that, bell cow, workhorse. There are really none of those, but he's going to be the lead. He's extremely athletic and explosive, and probably his best trait is pass catching work. So he's going to have that. I know they don't, check it down a ton, but like he's got the skill set. He's got the pass game chops. He's got the pass protection chops. There's another pass pro drink, and he's explosive behind that offensive line in that offense. No, Shipley will be Dion Lewis. Dion Lewis, but on this offense. Remember Dion Lewis? League winner. Dion Lewis. Oh, baby. Jason says, you drafting any Sean Tucker? Chances he overtakes White? Let's hopefully he's not gone, right? Okay, good. I can show you my exposure to Sean Tucker. On Drafters, I have 15% Sean Tucker. So yes, sir, I am drafting Sean Tucker. I like to draft football players on good offenses who I think are good at football and let the rest figure itself out. That's how I feel about Sean Tucker. Was Dion Lewis, was it LeGarrette Blount or was it, let's look that up now. It's going to bother me. Do you remember? I don't remember. Dion Lewis. That was 2017. Oh no, I'm on deck. Was it Blount? No. Oh my gosh. Okay, hold on. I got to make a pick and then we'll, because it's humorous. I assume Royals gone. Okay, we'll wait on that final receiver. Let's do Sean. Let's do Sean Tucker. Let's do Sean Tucker. Sean Tucker and Rashad. If something happens to Bucky, I got two backs who can present more value. Now, more go get your guy season. Harold Fannin. I'm trying to make Fannin my highest owned tight end. So I'm talking about the Dion Lewis Patriots season. He had 900 rushing yards and caught 32 balls, scored nine total touchdowns. They had, let's take a look, see. they had first of all, Brandon Cooks was the leading receiver for that team. Oh, technically not. I was Gronk by just a sliver. But do you remember this year? I wanted to pull it up because this year was nuts. This was the Dion Lewis, James White, Rex Burkhead, and Mike Gillislee. They had all those guys. Brandon Bolden, of course, the special teamer who never really touched the ball. But it was that insane combined 86 receptions. Okay, I'm in. On Shipley. Little bit different. Tom Brady offense, a little bit different. Just a little bit different. But that's kind of what I envision in terms of the role. I agree with you. I don't think Will Shipley is like ever just like totally taking an entire backfield and running with it. But I think the combination of how efficient anyone would be in that situation, especially someone with his athleticism, then you take the pass catching, just the overall scoring upside of the Eagles offense. I understand the tush push, but like you sacrifice the tush push. I feel like it's double counted against. I probably double counted it against Saquon last year. Like myself made this mistake. We used the tush push as like how many touchdowns is he really going to score? It's like, I don't know. The Eagles score a fuckload of touchdowns. So like he's probably going to score a lot of them. Like just because Jalen Hurts steals some of them, right? Would you rather have the Steelers running back when they're going to score hardly any touchdowns at all, or the Eagles running back where the offense is going to score 1 million touchdowns? You just have to give some of them to Jalen Hurts, right? It's like I still want the huge pie, right? I want the man versus food pie, not the local market little mini fucking pie. You know what I mean? Take me to the man versus food challenge pie, and I'll eat as much as I can and let other people eat it. Don't take me to the mini mart and I still only get not 100% of it. I just get a bigger chunk, but the pie's little, right? Like I don't want that. Give me the big ass pie. All right, we're taking 8 running backs on this team, baby. Did Devin Neal go? I was thinking I need to get my Devin Neal up. Oh, no. You know what we got to do here, right? Don't talk about it, be about it. Jawhar season. Mixon's cooked. All right, now I do need to get some Q going here. Oh. Should we turn this into the all training camp hype team? We'll see if Sports Sphere does it. But I haven't taken KLS on let's take KLS. I haven't taken KLS on a drafters team yet. I had taken him a couple times on Herbert teams before now, but nowhere near enough. That is for sure. Will Shipley equals Danny Woodhead. And this is like not a bad comp, and it's incredibly racist, but it's not a bad comp. But I like it because I don't think people know how good Danny Woodhead was, right? And Rex Burkhead, right? Let's just name all the white running backs. Let's just go ahead and get that out of the way. He's Mike Allstott. He's Christian McCaffrey. He's Evan Hall, who is, I don't think, white. That's also very racist. He is who's the guy that Overzet and Davis are buddies with? I forget. Why am I forgetting what? Patrick Laird. That's what Will Shipley is. But Danny Woodhead and Rex Burkhead were like awesome. And obviously they were like more pass catching backs, but they could take on a bigger chunk of the work if the team needed them, like for that week or for a stretch. And they did do it. Those are actually really good comps for that. They have this specific skill set, but they can shoulder more of the burden and actually be big time fantasy producers if given the opportunity, because they're just good football players and they're actually better runners than you think that they are. They're just not, they're not Saquon Barkley. They're not Devon Achane. They're not JT. They're not that kind of a guy, but you don't have to be, certainly not on the Eagles, to score a bunch of points. So that's kind of my general bet. All right. I do apologize to whoever was asking about doing another mini. We're almost to 2 hours. It's a Friday, and I got something special coming. Pat is traveling to the ship chasing meetup in Miami. So I'll be making up for it with something special. So we're gonna close up shop here on this draft. After, of course, don't go anywhere because we got to spin the wheel and give away 3 free tickets to the Drafters main event. So if you guys could, while I read this team, hit that like button really fast. That'd be great. We can get this out there, get more folks over on Drafters for us here. But I love the 2882s on Drafters. I love them with an elite tight end. I love this team. I'll be completely honest with you. Baker Mayfield and Jared Goff. We stacked up with the Bucks and the Lions here. RJ Harvey. So we got double H, not quite triple H. That's funny. Double H, RJ Harvey and Travion Henderson, Rashad White. I kind of like the blending of this running back room too. Rashad White, Will Shipley, Rico Dowdle, Keaton Mitchell, Sean Tucker, and Jawhar Jordan at running back. I honestly didn't even notice that I have Nico Collins to go with Jawhar. Shout out to me. Nico Collins, Devontae Adams, Jamison Williams, Chris Godwin, Keon Coleman, Luther Burden, Kyle Williams, and Keandre Lambert-Smith. Fun wide receiver room. I also do like it only taking 8. Obviously, Nico, Devontae, Jamo are like the foundation. Godwin, we'll see what happens there. And then getting like some upside breakout swings, whether it be Keon, second year, or the rookies, Burden, Williams, and KLS. Then, of course, Brock Bowers, superstar tight end, paired with my other favorite tight end, Harold Fannin. Yeah, I think Jawhar barely has an ADP now because a handful of us took him yesterday, but he's still so far buried in ADP. If you want him, you can still get him a little bit today. Okay, we'll hit a couple of the questions before we spin this wheel and give away some tickets. What's your take on the Browns running back situation? Is it like the Dallas room? So no, because I'm taking Dylan Sampson and I'm taking Jerome Ford and I'm not taking Quinshon Judkins. Basically, my bet. It's more like it's a expensive version of the Texans, where Judkins is some youth version of Mixon and Chubb. The difference is, of course, I expect Quinshon Judkins to be a Cleveland Brown, but I don't think it's going to get resolved. It could. They don't seem to be interested in resolving the Judkins situation soon. They are optimistic. Excuse me. They are this is their words. They are cautiously optimistic that Quinshon Judkins will be a Brown. Not that he'll be signed soon, not that whatever. They're cautiously optimistic that Quinshon Judkins will be on the Cleveland Browns. That's scary. So I'm kind of waiting that situation out. And I suspect he'll be a Brown, but I also suspect that they are going to wait a while for that. And the more camp he misses, the worse it is, right? Rookies missing camp is rough. You just need all those practice reps to hold off the other rookie, Dylan Sampson, to hold off Jerome Ford. They seem to like Pierre Strong still for some reason. So I'm diving into the other Browns guys. All right, let's spin the wheel 3 times and give away 3 free tickets. If you are here watching and you win, hit me up, Discord, Twitter, Guy, text message if you have my number. Drop a comment on the video. That can be your comment. And Mikey Boyd, I always like these. I always forget to write these down, and then I have to go back after the show is over. Mikey. Oh God, and you guys with these fucking YouTube names. Mikey Boy G9194. All right, Mikey, congratulations! Free ticket to the Drafters main event. I'm going to remove your name. Yeah, Brown's probably waiting for the legal stuff to play out because they don't want to get burned with the contract. And Kendrick, did you win last week too? Kendrick Park, 5701. Kendrick, shout out to you. I want to say you won last week. Maybe not. I could be wrong about that. One more free ticket. And of course, Remember, we'll do this again every Friday leading up to, oh my God, I think Marie won last week too. Marie, shout out to the 3 winners. Appreciate you guys, and contact me. We'll make sure you get your free tickets as soon as possible. I will get your info over to the drafters folks. And of course, you can start commenting and get entered into this giveaway for next week. We will do the same thing next week, same bat time, same bat channel. I do appreciate you guys, and have a wonderful weekend. This was a ton of fun. Thank you for pushing me into the Dallas Cowboys conversation. A lot of fun and a fun draft. Hopefully some of the news recapped helps. We'll do that every Friday, and Rob will be back on Sunday for another stream here. Yeah, that's about it. Subscribe to the channel, hit the like button on the way out, all that good stuff that everybody tells you to do when you watch their YouTube videos. And I'll see you guys Monday. I'll see you before Monday, but we'll surprise with that one. I'll see you guys soon. How about that? Have a good weekend. Cheers.
Woo! Those were some spicy takes. Want to stay up to date with all of the other spicy takes we're going to have over here at Spike Week? Why don't you press that subscribe button below? You turn notifications on, we draft a team, boom, you know about it. We have another spicy take, boom, you know about it. You can be there. You can draft with us. You want to stay up to date? That's how you do it. All right, we'll catch you later next time here at Spike Week.